My parents sold my college fund for my brother's rehab. 10 years later, they saw my Forbes interview. The notification popped up on my phone while I was in a board meeting. 4 to 7 missed calls from my mother. 18 from my father. 3 voicemails I knew I wouldn't listen to. They'd seen the Forbes article, the one with my face on the cover and the headline, "From Homeless to 100 Million, How Jasmine Torres Built Tech's Most Disruptive Startup." My name is Jasmine Torres, and 10 years ago, my parents made a choice that taught me everything I needed to know about survival. I was 18, 2 weeks from high school graduation, acceptance letter to MIT in one hand, scholarship papers in the other. The scholarship covered tuition, but living expenses, books, lab fees, that's what the college fund was for. $80,000 my grandmother had left specifically for my education, growing in a trust since I was 3 years old. "We need to talk," my father had said that May evening, his voice carrying that particular weight that meant bad news was coming dressed as necessity. They sat me down at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd done homework for 12 years, where I'd spread out my college applications, where I'd cried happy tears when MIT said yes. My brother Dylan wasn't there. He was never there anymore, always at a friend's house that we all knew was a dealer's apartment. "Dylan's agreed to go to rehab," my mother announced, as if this was cause for celebration. It was his 4th agreement in 3 years. "That's great," I said carefully. "The state program has an opening next month." "We're sending him to Passages Malibu," my father interrupted. "It's the best facility in the country. $80,000 for 90 days, but it includes equine therapy, ocean views, gourmet food." 80,000. The number hung in the air like an accusation. My mother couldn't meet my eyes. "Your brother needs this more than you need college right now. You're smart, Jasmine. You'll figure something out. Dylan might die without this help." The words landed like ice water. They'd already made the decision. The papers were probably already signed. "That's my college fund," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Grandma left it for my education. It's legally mine." "Actually," my father said, pulling out documents, "it's in our names as custodians until you're 21. We have the legal right to determine how to best use it for your welfare. And keeping your brother alive is for your welfare." I stared at them, these people who'd raised me, who'd celebrated my every academic achievement, who'd bragged to their friends about their daughter going to MIT. "You're really going to do this?" "Dylan is sick," my mother said, finally looking at me with eyes that had already justified everything. "Addiction is a disease. You wouldn't understand. You've never struggled with anything. Everything comes easy to you. Dylan needs our support. Everything comes easy to me." As if the 4.0 GPA had materialized from thin air. As if the science fair wins, the coding competitions, the sleepless nights preparing for SATs had been effortless. As if watching my brother get bailed out of every consequence while I got lectures about responsibility hadn't been a struggle. "I have orientation in 3 months," I said, one last attempt at reason. "I can't go without." "Then defer a year," my father said simply. "Work, save up. Maybe it'll be good for you to learn what the real world is like." The real world. As if I hadn't been living in it while Dylan got to exist in a fantasy where consequences never quite reached him. I left home that night with 2 suitcases and my laptop. No dramatic goodbye, no slammed doors. Just a quiet exit from a house that had chosen which child deserved investment. MIT wouldn't defer my scholarships. They were offered for full admission only. I watched my spot go to someone on the wait list while I slept in my 1998 Honda Civic in a Walmart parking lot, using their bathroom to wash up before my shifts. 3 jobs. That's what it took to survive. Starbucks at 4 a.m., data entry at an office from noon to 5, freelance coding until 2 a.m. Repeat. 7 days a week. The car became my apartment, the gym membership my shower solution, the library my office when Wi-Fi at Starbucks felt too pathetic. 2 months into this routine, Dylan left Passages Malibu. Not graduated, left. Walked out after deciding the rules were too strict. $80,000 for 67 days of luxury rehab he didn't finish. My parents didn't call to tell me. I found out from his Instagram story, a party in Venice Beach, red Solo cup in hand. But something strange happened in that Walmart parking lot, hunched over my laptop at 2 a.m., writing code for clients who didn't know I was homeless. I discovered I was good at solving problems that mattered. Really good. While building a payment processing system for a small business owner who couldn't afford traditional solutions, I realized there were millions of people locked out of financial systems just like I'd been locked out of college. 6 months later, I had 10 clients. A year later, 50. I moved from my car to a studio apartment that smelled like mold but had actual walls. I kept coding, kept building, kept solving problems for people the system had forgotten. The breakthrough came 2 years in. A simple observation: immigrant families sending money home were being destroyed by transfer fees. Traditional services took 10 to 15%. I built a platform that did it for 1%, using cryptocurrency rails the big banks hadn't figured out yet. Transfer fees started in my moldy apartment with $300 in server costs. Within a year, we were moving $10 million monthly. Within 3 years, $100 million. The venture capitalists who'd ignored my cold emails suddenly couldn't stop calling. I hired carefully: other dropouts, immigrants, single parents, people who knew what it meant to build something from actual nothing. We didn't have ping-pong tables or kombucha on tap. We had a mission and the hunger that comes from knowing exactly what failure tastes like. 5 years in, we were valued at $50 million. 7 years, $200 million. Last month, we closed our Series C at a unicorn valuation, $1.2 billion. The Forbes interview was supposed to be about disrupting remittances, about financial inclusion, about technical architecture. But the reporter had done her homework, found the old MIT acceptance announcement in my high school newspaper, traced the gap in my history. "You were accepted to MIT but never attended," she said during our interview. What happened? For the first time publicly, I told the truth. All of it. The college fund, the rehab, the Walmart parking lot. The 3 jobs. The car that became my first office. Dylan's Instagram posts from parties while I was learning to code by streetlight. That experience taught me everything, I told her. Not the technical skills. I could have learned those at MIT. But the hunger. The understanding that no one was coming to save me. The recognition that there were millions of people just like me, locked out of systems by circumstance, not lack of ability. The article went live on a Tuesday morning. By noon, my phone was melting down. The call from my mother came at 12:47 p.m. "Jasmine, sweetheart." Her voice was different, softer, smaller, older. "We saw the article. We had no idea. The company you built. We're so proud." "Stop," I said quietly. "Just stop. We made a mistake." My father's voice came through. They were on speaker, of course. Still a united front after all these years. "We should have found another way to help Dylan. We see that now." "How is Dylan?" I asked, not because I cared but because I was curious what story they'd tell. The silence stretched. Finally, my mother, his struggling. The addiction, it never really, his been in and out of programs. Nothing seems to stick. Of course not. Because the problem was never lack of access to luxury rehab. The problem was that Dylan had never faced a consequence he couldn't be rescued from, until the money ran out. "We were hoping," my father said carefully, "that maybe you could help. With your resources now, maybe you could get him into a better program, or maybe even hire him." I actually laughed. Not bitterly, just genuinely amused at the audacity. "You took my college fund to save Dylan," I said. $80,000. Do you know what MIT graduates make on average their first year out? $9,000 to $5,000. Over a 40-year career, adjusted for typical growth, that's about $12 million in lost earnings. But that's just salary. The network, the opportunities, the compound effect of that education. We're talking potentially hundreds of millions in lost value. "We didn't know." "You didn't care," I corrected. "You made a bet. You bet Dylan's potential was worth more than mine. You lost." "You're our daughter," my mother said, tears in her voice now. "Family helps family. I was your daughter when I was sleeping in my car too. Where was family then?" The silence that followed was answer enough. "I'm going to wire you $50,000, I said finally. "That's for you, not Dylan. It's what Grandma would have wanted. She loved you both even if she'd have hated what you did with her money. After that, we're done. Don't call me, don't email me, don't show up at my office. If Dylan needs rehab, there are state programs. If he needs a job, McDonald's is always hiring. Those were good enough for your daughter. They should be good enough for your son." I hung up before they could respond and blocked their numbers. Then I called my assistant. "Can you set up a meeting with the MIT Financial Aid Office?" I said, "I want to establish a scholarship. Full ride plus living expenses for students whose families chose not to support their education. Call it the Last Resort Scholarship." That was 6 months ago. The scholarship has already supported 12 students, all brilliant, all abandoned by families who thought they knew better where to invest their support. I get letters from them sometimes, coding from dorm rooms instead of cars, solving problems from libraries with heating instead of by streetlight. Dylan found my office last week. Security caught him trying to sleep in our lobby. He looked exactly like what he was, a 40-year-old man who'd never been required to grow up, aged by addiction but not matured by experience. He was holding a printout of the Forbes article. My face creased from his pocket. "Jazz," he called out as security escorted him past. "Jazz, it's me. Your brother. I didn't stop walking. Some might call that cold. I call it the most valuable lesson my parents ever taught me. When someone shows you what you're worth to them, believe them the first time. The company went public last month. My stake is worth $300 million. I didn't send my parents the announcement. But I did send a donation to the local community college in my grandmother's name, the one that offered me night classes when MIT became impossible, the one that taught me basic business skills between shifts. Because success isn't just the best revenge, it's the most elegant proof that the people who underestimated you were simply bad at math. The Forbes article is framed in my office now, not out of pride but as a reminder. Next to it hangs my MIT acceptance letter, yellowed at the edges, the dream that died so something bigger could be born. And below both, a photo from our last company meeting. 300 employees, most of them people who were told they weren't worth investing in, building something worth billions. Turns out my mother was right about one thing. Everything does come easy to me. Once I learned that the only investment that really matters is the one you make in yourself.